Welcome to the stream, folks. Welcome to the stream. PMQs start in about 15 minutes, but I figured I'll pop on ministerial questions first.
Stakeholders want answers, not retribution.
This is live.
That is why I've tabled amendments to the Troubles Bill to formally provide the option of a restorative justice pathway for the many victims of the Troubles who simply want to know what happened. Does the Secretary of State agree that restorative justice has an important role to play in reconciliation, and will he meet with me to discuss supporting my amendments?
Secretary of State.
Well, I'm always happy to meet with the honourable gentleman, and the House will have an opportunity in due course to consider the amendments that he has put down. Most of the victims that I've met, I'm sure that the same is true for the victims and families that he has met, are looking for answers. Most of them recognise that with the passage of time, the prospect of prosecutions of anybody are diminishing rapidly, and part of the focus of the Commission is to help those families to find answers. How families are then reconciled to the terrible loss that they have suffered, in the end, it will be for each family to find their own way of doing that.
Gavin Robbins.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Secretary of State and the Labour Government promised the people of Northern Ireland that they would repeal and replace the Legacy Act. They have not. They promised through this 2-year extended parliamentary session that they would deliver legislation that attained support across the community. They have not. It is delayed at the moment because of discord amongst his own benches. What does he say to the victims of Northern Ireland who want to see progress?
Well, I say very simply that the government is keen to progress this. It is a very complex, as the right honourable gentleman knows, it's a very complex piece of legislation because in part it is having to fix the mess that the Legacy Act 2023 left with this government to deal with. I make no apology for taking time to make sure that we get the legislation right, because as he knows, this is the last best hope we have.
Gavin Robbins.
The Northern Ireland Affairs Select Committee has just heard from the Chief Constable of the PSNI, John Boucher, who indicated that he, the Secretary of State, has put in a claim to Treasury for an additional hundreds of millions of pounds to fund the Legacy Commission, but yet the PSNI has nothing. They have £200 million of civil liability cases with them. They have no resources to progress. Even if they were asked for information, they couldn't provide it. Does he recognise there's a legacy funding deficit within the PSNI, and will he too similarly seek money for them?
Well, I would say to the right honourable gentleman that the creation of the Legacy Commission took away from the PSNI some 1,000 cases. 1,000 cases that it fell to them to investigate, and that cost has been transferred to the Legacy Commission. Whoever is investigating them, whatever the system is, they will have to be looked into, and when they are looked into, disclosure will be required.
Paul Forster.
Question number 3, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary of State.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. With permission, I will answer questions 3, 10 and 11 together. On the 10th of April, we will celebrate the anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement, which nearly 30 years ago brought an end to the Troubles and enabled Northern Ireland to establish a power-sharing government. In the years since, Northern Ireland has been transformed, and I look forward to working with everyone to make further progress.
Paul Foster.
We approach the anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement, historic in that it ultimately delivered peace for a generation. With the knowledge that it requires constant political cooperation and public support, its biggest challenge, no doubt, is the Tory reform policy of leaving the ECHR. If the UK left the ECHR, it would undermine a core principle of the agreement. Does the Secretary of State agree that there are some within this chamber that would wholly compromise the peace in Northern Ireland for short-lived, ill-judged political gain?
Well, I do agree with my honourable friend, and I do not understand why some are advocating removing the ECHR from the Good Friday Agreement. It would be highly irresponsible, and I think it shows a complete lack of understanding about what the agreement involved, because you cannot just walk in and pull out one of its pillars for the sake of party ideology.
That's a good tell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Good Friday Agreement was a landmark achievement of the last Labour government, and it is a beacon of hope for conflict-affected states around the world. Now, before coming into this place, I had the privilege of witnessing and experiencing Northern Ireland young people's leadership in this area, where they shared their experiences and the lessons from the Good Friday Agreement. So with that in mind, can the Secretary of State tell me what he is doing to share the UK's expertise and to ensure that others affected by conflict can benefit from it as well?
Secretary of State.
Well, I agree with my honourable friend. The biggest lesson of the Good Friday Agreement is it takes immense political courage to say yes rather than to go on saying no. And to pick up her point, back in the end of last year, the Foreign Secretary convened the Western Balkan countries under the Berlin process at Hillsborough Castle, and the First and Deputy First Minister talked through how Northern Ireland has made this extraordinary progress. One example of how the lessons of that agreement are being heard around the world.
Bill Rivera, Addy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Good Friday Agreement recognised the importance of addressing the suffering of victims of the Troubles. Legislating for this remains unfinished business, as does the implementation of a border poll, for which there is significant support in the North. As we approach the anniversary, does the Secretary of State agree that it's time to take action on both?
Secretary of State.
I say to my honourable friend that the provisions relating to a border poll are very clearly set out in the Good Friday Agreement. There is one criterion that governs such a decision. There is no evidence at the moment that there is a majority for a constitutional change in Northern Ireland, and I commit to the House that I've done before, I will uphold in letter and spirit that bit of the Good Friday Agreement.
Yeah. Sir Julian.
Speaker, could I add to the tributes paid to the table clerk? In all of the advice he's given in the last 40 years, he gave particularly good advice on the meaningful vote, which left many of us traumatised, but he developed a great expertise in. As we celebrate the Good Friday Agreement, can I urge the Secretary of State to be crystal clear to the Northern Ireland Assembly and Northern Ireland politicians that there's going to be less money coming from GB. There needs to be revenue raising, and there needs to be a sole focus on economic growth for the next session of the Northern Ireland Assembly.
Secretary of State.
Well, I agree with the right honourable gentleman that economic growth is the answer to many of the questions that the Executive and the Assembly are facing. Northern Ireland, with its dual market access, has an extraordinary opportunity, along with its innovation and ingenuity. Being in government requires taking difficult decisions with the money you've got. We're giving a record settlement to the Executive. They have to decide how to spend it most effectively.
Jim Ellis.
As the Secretary of State talks up the Belfast Agreement, he of course ignores the fact that its primary pledge of no constitutional change without consent has been trashed by the Windsor Framework, in that Article 6 of our Acts of Union, no less,
PMQ's starting 7 minutes now.
Northern Ireland in 300 areas.
This is ministerial questions.
Jurisdiction. That is constitutional change without consent. And more than that, the guarantee of cross-community support was removed in order to force through the 4-year extension of the protocol. So, surely the Secretary of State should realise that the Belfast Agreement has been hollowed out in order to promote the nationalist agenda, which he seems so ready to embrace.
Well, I don't accept the argument that the honourable gentleman advances, either in relation to the Good Friday Agreement. When it comes to the Windsor Framework, those who advocated to leave the European Union didn't think about the consequences to entities, one open border. How are you going to ensure that goods that cross the border meet the rules of the respective entity? And that is what the Windsor Framework is seeking to do. But the government is negotiating an SPS agreement with the EU, which has been widely welcomed by all parties across Northern Ireland.
Campbell.
Speaker, in any marking of the end of violence, does the Secretary of State agree with me that a key date is in fact 1994, when the main violence perpetrators, the IRA, finally woke up to the reality of their ranks being riddled with informants, were running out of options, and they declared a ceasefire. That was then followed by a loyalist paramilitary ceasefire doing likewise. but civilized society should never applaud or celebrate murderers ceasing doing what they never should have started in the first place.
Well, I say to the honourable gentleman, there was always an alternative to violence, always an alternative, and that recognition was finally reached when the Good Friday Agreement was negotiated and signed, and Northern Ireland has seen the benefit since. And it shows, as I indicated earlier, instead of saying no, which happened repeatedly on all sides, when you're finally prepared to compromise in the interests of peace, enormous benefits flow, in this case to Northern Ireland and elsewhere in the world.
Alex Easton.
Question number 4, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, we are indebted, all of us, to the men and women who serve in our police force, who day in, day out work to keep our communities safe. I know the PSNI purchased the site in the honourable member's constituency last year. He will obviously know that policing and justice is devolved, so the next steps are for the PSNI and the executive to discuss a way forward.
Alex Easton.
Would the Minister agree that policing in Northern Ireland has consistently showcased excellence with some of the most courageous public service anywhere in the UK, and that the development of a new police college on a 54-acre site at Holywood represents a unique opportunity to build the expertise? Would he agree to a site meeting with me to discuss funding opportunities to develop that policing college in Northern Ireland?
No problem. Minister.
I would be very happy to join the honourable member at that visit. He makes his case very powerfully. He pays rightfully tribute to the brave men and women who serve in our police, and I'm sure the executive will have heard his case for the PSNI as well.
Douglas McAllister.
Question number 5, please, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary of State.
Northern Ireland will directly benefit from the spring forecast with almost £390 million in additional funding to the executive over the next 3 years, including £231 million in 2026-27. This is money the executive could use to deliver on its priorities, including the transformation of public services and promoting economic growth.
Douglas McAllister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The £379 million in Barnett consequentials announced by our Chancellor earlier this month is on top of the £370 million of extra funding announced in the budget, all in addition to the £19 billion of funding settlement announced at the spending review. So does the Minister agree with me that this record level of investment, and it's now for the executive to produce a balanced multi-year budget that will deliver for the people of Northern Ireland?
I do agree with my honourable friend. The government has taken a decision to enable, if the executive wishes to do so, to agree a multi-year budget. Discussions are taking place. We've had the open book exercise, and I hope that the Northern Ireland executive, given those considerable additional resources, will be able to find a way forward.
Sammy Wilson.
As a result of the government's mismanagement of the economy, the spring statement forecast that economic growth would go down, wage growth would go down, and also that we would have an increase in inflation, all of which will hit Northern Ireland more severely than other parts of the United Kingdom. Yet the government refuses to do anything about the massive costs of the Windsor Framework, and has imposed from the 1st of July carbon taxes on sea transport across from GB to Northern Ireland, which will hit our economy even harder.
No way. Labour's gonna do carbon taxes? Like, they saw how unpopular it was in Canada, and they're already unpopular. So, like, come on, man. Okay, the front bench is all shuffled and PMQs are beginning shortly.
To the Northern Ireland executive, and we are working through our negotiations with the EU to reduce the impact of the Windsor Framework. The SPS agreement, as I said a moment ago, widely welcomed across Northern Ireland, is a really good example of that.
Yes. Chair of the Select Committee, Tony Antoniak.
Mr. Speaker, while this funding in the spring statement is welcome, the Secretary of State told us that he was looking at alternative sources for funding of the charity.
I really thought that Swindy was gonna be here, but I guess he fell asleep, so oh well.
On his conversations.
Yes, I am working very hard together with the voluntary sector and I hope the executive to find a way forward. There is £9 million available in resource to fund those schemes from the 1st of April. I held a meeting to encourage the voluntary sector to apply for a bid to Peace Plus, and with the considerable additional resources that have been made available to the Northern Ireland Executive, it is open to them to make a contribution so that the economic inactivity programmes, which we all value enormously, can continue.
Northern Ireland Office and Treasury are doing an open book exercise on all departments of the Northern Ireland Executive and how they're spending their block grant allocations. Will the Secretary of State commit to publishing any findings that they find?
It will be a report from the Treasury to the Northern Ireland Executive. It is for the Executive to take the decision, but I say from this dispatch box, I would welcome its publication.
Mike Wood, Shadow Minister.
Mr. Speaker,
I think this is the last ministerial question. Inshallah.
Supporting more than
But I don't know.
jobs. But last year, more than 2,000 hospitality workers in Northern Ireland lost their jobs. So does the Secretary of State agree with Unite the Union, of which I know he's a member, that this is the result of the government's disastrous national insurance rises?
The national insurance rise decision that the Chancellor took in her first budget was necessary because of the woeful economic legacy left to this government by its predecessor. And if the Honourable Gentleman is not prepared to recognise that very basic fact, he's not been paying attention.
We come to
Prime Minister's questions!
Smith.
Here.
Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. An attack on Britain's Jewish community is an attack on all of us.
Here.
And Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to say that London ambulances have now replaced the Hatzola ambulances, and that the NHS will pay for the permanent replacements. We're also accelerating our social cohesion plan to strengthen our British values of tolerance, decency and respect. Mr. Speaker, we're also strengthening our communities by extending Pride in Place, announcing the locations of 7 new towns and delivering over 300 new school-based nurseries. This is investment in our high streets, more homes and action to support working people with the cost of living. Mr. Speaker, today we will also celebrate the installation of the new Archbishop of Canterbury. It's a key role
I heard there's a rift in the church.
and I wish her every success. This morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to thank the Prime Minister for the £47 million that this government has given to Lancashire County Council to repair potholes. However, my constituents still feel like they need a moon buggy to navigate the streets of Lancashire. So would you agree with me that the reform councillors at Lancashire County Council are clearly wired to the moon if they think they're making effective use of this £47 million?
Here.
Well, can I extend my sympathy to residents in Lancashire who have been utterly failed by their reform county council?
Here.
And Mr. Speaker, it's the same picture across the country. In Kent, reform are cutting social care. In Worcestershire,
And they're not even lowering taxes. Reform's whole thing is we're gonna get rid of council tax, or at least lower it. They raised it. Oh well, they didn't raise it to the maximum amount they could have. This is fucking copium that I hear all the time, man.
Nothing to offer but chaos, grievance, and division.
Leader of the opposition, Kemi Bin.
Here. Okay, it's debate.
I asked the Prime Minister 6 questions last week, and he didn't answer a single one. He
Fair
has
enough.
a duty to this House, Mr. Speaker, to answer the question.
Oh man, this is my
Let's see
favorite
if he
TV
can do
show.
better this week. I'll start with a simple one. Will the Prime Minister approve the licenses for Rosebank and Jackdaw gas fields in the North Sea?
Prime Minister.
Here.
Mr. Speaker, the under statute, that is a matter for the Secretary of State, as she knows, because it's the
It's even dumber because the Secretary of State was just getting ministerial questions, but okay.
licenses were granted. They were then struck down because of the defects in
Man.
the process of the last government. But, Mr. Speaker, oil and gas is coming out of the North Sea 24/7. It will be part of the energy mix for many years to come. We fully support all existing oil and gas fields throughout their lifespan, and in November we made changes to extend to allow neighbouring fields to be exploited. But we need to take control of our energy prices. The only way to do that is through renewables. The party opposite used to make that argument. One of their senior figures in 22 said this: it's investment in nuclear and renewables that will reduce our dependence on fossil fuels and keep our consumer costs down. Who was that senior figure? The leader of the opposition.
Ah!
This is not the day to be thrown out with a 2-week break coming. Come in, Ben.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, we can have renewables and oil and gas. He says it's a matter for the Secretary of State. He says it's a matter for the Secretary.
Yeah, we can keep fossil fuels. Like for a few more decades and then we'll all die. But yeah, sure, let's just keep them.
I wonder, Mr. Speaker, what a director of public... What? Have I...
Order. Mr. Yeltsin, you don't want to test my patience, I'm sure. Come back.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister loves...
I know the oil lobby is crazy in Britain, especially with the Tories.
I wonder what a director of public prosecutions would make of the defense.
Similar over here in America.
My WhatsApps, my phone's been stolen. The Jackdaw gas field could be up and running before winter. All that gas would be used here in the UK to heat 1.6 million homes. That is enough to power Norfolk, Suffolk and Essex put together. So will the Prime Minister approve the licenses, or is the Energy Secretary running the government?
Mr. Speaker, legislation has been passed. It's absolutely clear that the quasi-judicial duty under legislation rests with the Secretary of State. I really think if she's going to put this challenge to me, she needs to read the legislation. That is the legislation that they applied for 14 years. It's exactly the legislation that they used to put the licenses in place, which were then struck down because the process was defective. But, Mr. Speaker, let's be clear, when Russia invaded Ukraine, energy prices doubled. The 12-day war, oil prices hit £100 a barrel. In the last 4 weeks, because we're on the fossil fuel roller coaster, everybody has been held to ransom. The only way forward is to go further and faster on renewables.
Yeah, especially if Trump's going to keep doing the stuff that he is.
Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition's approach is to...
Got stickers at some of the gas pumps around here that say "I ran your gas price up" with Trump's face. I thought it was pretty good.
And let them set the price of energy. I will never do that because it's not in the British national interest.
Yeah. You know, he's not so bad, really.
So many people. He is the Prime Minister. He can make
He just keeps fumbling.
Today, he can. He is so weak. He's the first person to be pushed around by the Energy Secretary. Let me remind him, Mr. Speaker.
Oh no, does Kia have a headache? Does Kia have a headache?
The unions, yes, GMB, they're on my side. Tony Blair. Mr. Speaker, Renewable UK, the very people that he's talking about, they are saying drill in the North Sea. Centrica, Octopus Energy, even Labour MPs. Let me quote the Labour member for Pembrokeshire.
Oh man, I love PMQs so much.
Might give a sense of moral superiority, but it is simply
I would stream them for 0 viewers with 0 VOD viewers,
so why does the Prime Minister think he knows better
and it'd still be fun.
I'm going to have one more go. The legislation, the statute...
She really does like to waste her 6 questions on one thing. She only gets 6 per week, and there's about to be a 2-week break, so...
She's attacking me without having read the legislation. The legislation sets out who the decision maker is. It's the Secretary of State, it is not the Prime Minister. It has to be the Secretary of State, and it's a quasi-judicial process, exactly the process that they ran for many years.
But of course, the Tories would know something about the executive branch overreaching.
But But Mr. Speaker, we're discussing this because
You know,
of the war. We need to
credit where credit's due.
de-escalate.
Keir
And
Starmer
that's-
could have
yes,
prorogued,
we are.
could
That is why I
prorogue
said to
Parliament,
my
but I
groups
highly
not
doubt that he
to
will.
join the war and to act in collective self-defence. I appreciate the Leader of the Opposition doesn't get that. She wanted to jump into
It is
the war
crazy how
without regard
90% of
to the
MPs will be freshmen next
and
term.
then do a mother of all U-turns.
That's gonna be like a horrible first month in Parliament. Everyone learning the rules.
When she was asked at the weekend whether she approved of the war, she said, "Oh, that's a difficult one. It certainly is if you've got absolutely no judgment."
Mr. Speaker, I'm going to let the Prime Minister in on a secret. He's the Prime Minister. He can change the legislation.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, under his Labour government, we buy half the gas we use from Norway. Last year, Norway's Labour government drilled 49 wells.
That's a completely different Labour government. You are really fishing for it.
Zero. For the first time since 19...
She is really fishing for it.
Britain drilled no wells. Why is energy security the right policy for Labour in Norway, but the wrong policy for Labour...
These are different parties. What are you saying?
Mr. Speaker, so now our attack is if you change to pass some different law, you could take a decision, which is challenging me today for not taking. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, all that would do is to slow the process down. Oil and gas is coming out every day. There's a mix of that and renewables. But it's really important, Mr. Speaker, the most important thing to get energy security is to ensure we de-escalate this war. I know where I stand on this. We are not joining the war. She wanted to join the war.
Yeah.
She didn't think through the consequences, and now she doesn't know where she stands on the most important issue facing this country at this time.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, the Norwegian Prime Minister is doing what is right for his country. If only our Prime Minister would do the same. Stopping all new drilling in the North Sea was a reckless promise when he made it before the election. In the middle of a global energy crisis, it is catastrophic. Experts are predicting a £300 rise in bills in July. Approving new licenses would show he was serious about cutting bills. Why won't he do it?
Mr. Speaker, because of the action that we've taken, bills are coming down by up to £100 household bills next month. Then they will be capped for 3 months. That's what we're doing to protect households across the country. And who voted against it? The Tories and Reform, because they just don't get the impact on working people that we want to protect.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker,
I think this is her last question, then it's Ed Davey.
They are higher than they were when he came into office. And he's talking about, he's talking about what they're doing.
She was doing so well a few weeks ago, and then she fumbled on the Iran war question, and she just hasn't made a comeback.
His decisions. He could abolish the green taxes on their bills. He could stop the fuel duty rise.
That being said, I don't think she's gonna have a leadership challenge anytime soon. I mean, she's pretty popular for a Tory these days, to be fair. There was like people were saying Robert Jenrick, I think, but he left the party, obviously.
Doesn't this just prove that they've given up being the Labour Party and they're now just the Welfare Party?
That's a zinger. That's a zinger.
And they're the ones that double spend on welfare, Mr. Speaker. They're the ones with a broken system. And when we tried to mend it, what did they do? They voted against it.
Order. Mr. Dewars, you're tempting my patience.
Mr. Speaker, she talks about the spike in energy prices. That's because of the war, which I say we shouldn't join. And she says we should join without following through on the consequences. And time again, she gets the big calls absolutely wrong. She wanted to drag us into the war. She got that wrong. She opposed taking control of energy security, and she got that wrong. She opposed our decision to cut energy bills, and she got that wrong. And she seriously thinks that'll make her relevant, and she's got that
wrong. That's a pretty good one. Keir's not so bad this week.
Can I thank the Prime Minister for the new funding for 3 new primary school nurseries in Oldham?
Yeah.
But can I specifically about Monday's liaison committee.
Backbenchers
when
get a
he
few
agreed
before Ed
the
Davey.
Israeli settlements in the West Bank are unlawful.
Ed Davey gets either 2 or 3 questions. I can't remember. I think 3.
Of a Palestinian state. Will he confirm, as he said he would, that any potential bidder for E1 contracts from the UK knows that this is unlawful? And will he set out exactly what will happen as a consequence?
Mr. Speaker, let me do that. The Israeli settlements, including the E1 settlement, a flagrant breach of international law and threaten the viability of the two-state solution. That's why, alongside international partners, we've sanctioned those responsible and their supporters who incite violence. We've consistently urged the Israeli government to act to stop these incidents. We also recommend that settlement products are labelled so that consumers are informed, and we'll continue to take the necessary action to defend Palestinians and protect the two-state solution.
Leader of the Liberal Democrats, Ed.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I associate myself with the Prime Minister's remarks about Monday's despicable attacks on the Jewish community? Anti-Semitism has no place in our society, and given the potential links with the IRGC, I hope the government will move faster to prescribe them as terrorists. And Mr. Speaker, as a former Secretary of State for Energy who granted licenses for oil and gas exploration, can I make a judgment on this argument? The Prime Minister is actually right, and the lead opposition is wrong.
Oh! Siding with Keir Starmer? What is he doing?
Mr. Speaker,
What the hell is he doing?
and I believe in the rule of law.
What are you doing, genuinely?
President Trump posted
You
about
brought
supposed
your party to 72 seats from near party death to the best result since the Liberal Democrats were a unified party in 1982.
they can make themselves richer, while his illegal war in Iran makes
And now you're gonna bring them down to failure
corruption
again.
of the very worst kind. Does the Prime Minister share my fear that Trump is making his war decisions based on what enriches himself and his friends rather than what makes peace in the Middle East?
Prime Minister.
Well, can I thank him for his verdict? At least he's read the law that she obviously hasn't read. But Mr. Speaker, in relation to the traders, we've seen the activity there. What I can say is that all of my decisions are based in the best interests of our country, and that's why I've decided that we will not get dragged into the war, unlike the leader of the opposition, and I've decided we will act in collective self-defense of ourselves.
Just like, why did Ed Davey waste a question praising the Prime Minister? These are Prime Minister's questions. Grill him. You only get 2 or 3 a week.
Pushes up energy bills by £500.
What are you doing?
Chance's very narrow plan simply won't.
Maybe I should have drafted him in Fantasy Parliament. He's gonna fumble again.
Who cheered on this illegal.
Dude, Ed Davey is such a joke these days. It's very sad.
Energy bills.
As a friend of mine would say, it's bleak.
The government is right to reject repeating Liz Truss's blanket check approach. But, Mr. Speaker, the government can't
Order!
ignore
Come on, guys.
the millions of families who don't get benefits, who already face a cost of living crisis. So can the Prime Minister at least guarantee to all those families and pensioners that he won't let their energy bills go up by £500 this year?
Yeah.
Well, let me say my verdict. He's right about the leader of the opposition wanting to join the war, and she's wrong about that. At least he's read the legislation that I'm being challenged.
Does she though? Does she want to join the war? I don't know. Like, she's such. Like, she always grills Keir for flip-flopping, but she's a flip-flopper herself.
It was the leader of their party that said, "Let's all go to war without thinking through the consequences." We're now discussing.
And then a week later at PMQs, I never said such a thing. Get the fuck out of here.
We'll keep this under careful review. Energy bills for households are frozen until are capped until the end of June. It's really important I make clear that that's whatever happens in the conflict, because I know the public are concerned about that. We will then put in place appropriate support and look at how we put the principles behind it.
Durham Pape.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and can I associate myself with the Prime Minister's remarks on the terrible Golders Green attacks? Mr. Speaker, rebuilding trust and integrity in our democracy matters deeply to my constituents in Southampton. Shamefully, it doesn't matter at all to some, particularly the senior Reform UK politician who has been convicted of taking bribes
Is this a Labour
from
right?
Russia.
No, this is a Tory, right?
That there has never been a more urgent
It
need
is
to
Labour.
defend
I can
our
tell from where
country
he's looking.
hostile forces who would try to undermine our
I
democracy.
recognize his
Will he
face.
set out what concrete steps he is taking
Yeah, Labour.
to crack down on
It's on the
foreign
government side.
interference in British politics?
Yeah.
Can I thank my honourable friend? He makes a powerful point. Mr. Speaker, the Communities Secretary will make a statement later on the Rycroft review, which sets out the stark threats posed by illicit finance. I can tell the House.
All
we
jokes
will
aside,
act
it must
decisively
be
to
stressful to be
protect
sitting
our
at that
democracy.
dispatch box.
That will include a
Like how
moratorium on all
much
political
before your
donations
first
made through
PMQ
cryptocurrencies.
must you like rehearse?
That will be welcomed across the House.
And you only know a certain extent. Like you can do research, like what they're probably gonna ask, because obviously you know to a certain extent the big things. But oh, Nigel, what?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Smash the gangs. That is what the Prime Minister promised us. Trust me, I will stop the boats from coming. But 70,000 later.
2 weeks in a row,
1,000
Nigel's
below,
questions have got called.
and 2
What is
million
happening?
Young men that pose a threat to national security. Is it not time to admit Smash the Gangs has been a total abject failure, along, frankly, with most of his other policies? But isn't it now time,
Oh my
he told
gosh,
us,
man. I hate
as
this
summer
guy so
approaches,
much.
what is Plan B?
Well, Mr. Speaker, this is from the man in the party that voted against giving law enforcement counter-terrorism style
Yeah.
powers to tackle them. So he wants the grievance, he doesn't want
I
to
can't
solve
believe
it.
they let in
And this-
Suella
he has
Braverman.
absolutely
Like,
no-
why?
he
She's
against
not
it.
popular.
Let's join the war.
She
Let's all go
did
to
all the
war.
immigration things. It's so funny that she sits on their bench
He wants
now.
the war. A week later, screeching U-turn, we don't want to go to war. And he says, trust his judgment. Mr. Speaker, it's hard to take anything he says seriously. He promised lower
I am
tax,
shocked that there's
and
not
the
more
Reform
MPs
Council
defecting
hiked
to
the
reform
council tax
before
by
their
9%.
May deadline.
In Worcestershire, this is what he said about Worcestershire. He said, we took control of a virtually bankrupt council.
Pleasantly
I wish we
surprised,
hadn't
though.
bothered. He asked for people's votes, and then he abandons them.
Mhm.
Reform don't want to solve problems, they only want to exploit them. I am thankful
Hear,
for the
hear.
opportunity to change this country for the better. He says he wish he hadn't bothered winning councils, because they're an absolute disgrace.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I thank the Prime Minister for the £35 million of funding announced this week to transform Crucible Theatre and keep the world...
Yeah.
On up.
Oh my gosh. They act like such children. They're so immature. But it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Because it's entertaining as hell.
Mr. Speaker. Can I thank the Prime Minister for the £35 million of funding
Big up the
announced
speaker.
this week to transform the Crucible Theatre
Yeah.
and keep the World Snooker Championship at the heart of Sheffield.
Oh, wait, is snooker
Able to
cool?
enjoy this fantastic tournament day
British
and night,
people talk so
travelling
silly.
by tram train from Stocksbridge to Sheffield via Outerbridge, Warncliffe Side and Deep Car. I'm grateful for
Yeah.
our South Yorkshire Mayor Oliver Coppard for kick-starting these plans. Will the Prime Minister work with me and the South Yorkshire Mayor to ensure we get spades in the ground for a tram train extension to Stocksbridge as soon as possible so my constituents can enjoy the snooker?
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, I see Reform have walked out. They obviously realise they're absolutely snookered.
Yeah. The reform bench walked out.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Field and the Crucible Theatre are the beating heart of snooker, and I am delighted that we'll host the World Snooker Championships for many years to come, because this is what Labour stands for, investing in things that make us proud of the places that we live. Can I reassure my honourable friend we're working closely with South Yorkshire Combined Authority on better transport links, providing over £1.4 billion to spend on their priorities, which could include a new tram fleet, more modern stops, or deliver extensions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week I met my constituents Rob and Lizzie at King's Arms Hotel in Melrose, which they run as part of a family business of 10 hotels across Scotland. They employ over 250 people, but
This
their
is
national
Labour,
insurance bill is going up by £280,000 because of
You can kind of guess, obviously, by where they're sitting, but it's harder to tell where they're sitting sometimes. But you can tell by where they're looking.
Are doing the opposite. Does the Prime Minister understand the damage that he is
Also,
doing
he's Scottish,
to our
and most of them
economy?
are Labour
And
right
how
now.
does he expect businesses like this to survive?
Not for long, though.
Mr. Speaker, the steps we've taken have been to repair the damage that was done by the previous government.
Maybe it wasn't a Labour. I think I was wrong. My bad, guys.
And the spring statement showed the results of those steps. Inflation coming down, interest rates coming down, and the economy stabilised. I know they don't understand that because they blew up the economy in the first place.
Mr. Speaker, my constituents Tony and Rebecca Wadley received insulation under the Tory government's Eco4 scheme, but the work left their home with black mould, leaks, damp, and even a solar fire, damage now requiring £100,000 worth of repairs. Rebecca is suicidal, Tony has had pneumonia, their asthmatic son cannot live at home. And like many others, they are required under the rules to use the same contractor responsible for the faulty work, only up to £20,000. Now, will the Prime Minister commit to overhauling this broken system so that my constituents and many others can receive fully funded repairs carried out by a competent builder?
This is a Tory.
Mr. Speaker, an independent audit of the previous government's failed insulation schemes show unacceptable levels.
The previous government's unpopular, but so are you, Keir. All you talk about is the previous government, this or that. Oh my gosh, talk about what you're gonna do.
Remediating the issues. I do recognise that there's some complicated cases. I'll make sure a minister looks at her constituents' case.
It was a Labour, right? I'm rusty. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, the Prime Minister says that he's concerned about the cost of living. So can he explain why he allowed his government minister to give permission to reform-led Worcestershire County Council to inflict that 9% council tax hike on my constituents?
Mr.
Never
Speaker,
mind.
Reform have to take responsibility for their
She's a
decisions.
Tory. I'm gonna stop
They
guessing the parties. I'm so bad right now.
Mr. Speaker, two members of the same family in my constituency recently suffered serious.
Well, that one's Labour. I could tell.
The NHS was there for them, as you would expect, and
From
they're
where
both
he's sitting.
now on the road to recovery. But the recently departed honourable member had a different idea that we should have an insurance-based health policy, an American-style policy, and that family, whose cost would have been $1.2 million, would have been crucified financially by what happened. So will the Prime Minister take the opportunity to say that our principles on the NHS are that it's universal for everybody, that wealth does not give you privileged access, and that this is a public service, not a private service?
I'm deeply sorry, sir, about the case that he raises.
Unfortunately, until they fix those waiting lists, if they don't fix the waiting lists, then people will just pay more for private healthcare, and understandably so. And I do think that you shouldn't be able to buy better healthcare. Everyone should get the same good healthcare. But if you're not going to make the healthcare good and get rid of the waiting list, then you can't get rid of the other one either. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry, folks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My constituent, Susan, suffered horrific,
Liberal Democrat.
unimaginable lifelong injury from a pelvic mesh
Easy dub.
implant. She lost her business, her marriage, her health, and lives in
Oofda.
constant 24-hour pain. I'd
Oh,
like to
man.
congratulate the new Minister for Public Health on her appointment after her tireless
Stop
campaign
glazing
on
Labour.
which has clearly been recognised. But more than 2 years after the Hughes report set out clear recommendations for redress, thousands of women like Susan are still waiting for a government response. So can the Prime Minister tell Susan and the thousands of other women like her how much longer they will have to wait?
Minister. Could I thank her for raising Susan's case, and it's really important that she does so, and I'm deeply sorry for the enduring harm that patients have suffered. Ministers have met campaigners and the Patient Safety Commissioner to discuss their recommendations, and I can assure her we will provide a full response to the Hughes Report recommendations at the earliest opportunity. And I'm happy for ministers to update her on the actions we've taken and to discuss the particular case that she's raised with me.
Dr. Ellison-Gott.
I recently met with Graham and Malcolm, who bravely shared their lived experience of addiction to
Labor.
monkey dust, a synthetic cathinone causing
They're getting a lot of government questions. I know it's randomly called, but I think a certain percentage has to be opposition. I think it's like 60.
including mental health and
But I
housing.
could be
I
wrong.
am now setting up a task force to address these gaps. and to
We're
learn from
about
excellent local projects such as
2/3 through
Will the Prime Minister
PMQs,
meet
so
with me to discuss how together as a country we can tackle this pernicious drug?
Can I thank her for her work? She's right to highlight the growing threat posed by dangerous synthetic drugs. Alongside deploying new detection methods at the border to seize drugs, we're investing in better mental health support and drug addiction treatment with almost 26 million for Stoke-on-Trent. I'll ask the Health Minister to discuss her important work with her.
Pinch fortune.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And as we move towards the Easter recess, I'm sure
Tory.
the Prime Minister's thoughts are turning to the miracle of resurrection. But constituents in Bromley and Biggin Hill have asked me to resurrect something, and that is cash in shops. 1 in 7 shops in the last year has moved to a cashless organisation, which risks leaving behind those on low income or the elderly. And indeed, we've heard today of the risk of moving to digital devices for our economic liberty, as mobile phones could be lost or
Look.
stolen or other.
cash. I don't think that they shouldn't accept cash. I think that they should still obviously accept cash, but
Well, it is really important
let's be
that
real.
this,
Who
that
doesn't
kind
use
of
either
cashless,
a debit or credit card or their phone to pay these
are
days?
moving online, but we need to
Maybe
recognize
I'm just
some,
in
don't
a
want
city
to
bubble
or
though,
are.
because
We have to make sure there's provision in place for
do
those
know
that
that
might
that's
be
less
able to
common
raise
in rural areas some places.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government has shown that
I feel
it
like
takes
even
seriously the
like phone
issues
tap
of
is everywhere
justice
now.
and
Though.
violence
Is it
against
not?
women
Like
and girls.
here.
In my constituency, I have been made aware of a case where 2 children of a convicted paedophile have been trying to change their surname, but can't because both parents have to agree. They are caught in
Oh,
a trap,
man.
not of their own making. Will my right honourable friend agree to meet with me and all the relevant minister to hear how the legal system
He
is
is a
denying
Labour.
justice to this
Because he said right honourable friend.
and what we can do about it? Thank you.
Here, here.
Can I thank him for raising this? And it is shocking and
Yeah.
horrifying to hear what these children have to go through. I'm absolutely clear in my mind that should not be happening. And I can inform you, I've instructed the Justice Ministers to look at what they can do. They are going to review the payments and see what else they can do. And so I'm really pleased he's raised this so we can now act on it, and I'll make sure that he gets the meeting that he's asking for.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps are responsible worldwide and here in the United Kingdom for the rise of anti-Semitism,
Tory?
inciting extreme Islam attacks,
Yeah,
and at
Tory.
the same time attacking dissident Iranians
Extreme
and
Islam
Muslims,
attacks.
as well as
Shut your
fomenting
bitch
all
ass
sorts
up.
of hate marches. A very simple question. We are now at war with Iran, whether we like it or not. But the reality for us, therefore, is that we have never dealt with this organization. And I simply ask the Prime Minister, doesn't matter, it's not party political, I simply ask him, can he make the decision now that they will proscribe this brutal bunch of thugs and send them packing or arrest them and put them in jail now, right now, get rid of this organization?
I don't know enough about this, honestly. I really don't.
He knows that we've sanctioned the IRGC in its entirety, and we've posed over 230 sanctions since coming into office. The existing prescription powers are not designed for a state organisation, but we do keep this under review, as did the last government.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the 16th of July 2005, Private Leon Spicer,
and Private Philip Hewitt.
Dude,
both
Labour is
from
getting
Tamworth,
so many
Second
questions today.
Lieutenant
What the hell?
Richard Shearer from Nuneaton were
Another
tragically
one?
killed in Iraq. More than 20 years on, our communities continue to remember their service and reflect on the ultimate sacrifice that they made. The Staffordshire 3 group, chaired by Anthony Firth, has worked tirelessly to fundraise for a memorial, which is due to be unveiled next month, and to which the Prime Minister is of course warmly invited. Will the Prime Minister join me in paying tribute to these 3 brave men and in commending the Staffordshire 3 group for their dedication in ensuring that their legacy is never forgotten?
Can I thank my honourable friend for the invitation? And can I join her in paying tribute to Private Leon Spencer, Private Philip Hewitt, and Second Lieutenant Richard Shearer? Their bravery and sacrifice in defence of our values will never be forgotten, and I'm delighted to hear a memorial will be unveiled. Can I also pay tribute to all those serving today in the Middle East, shooting down threats from our allies and protecting our people?
Iqbal Mohammed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I also associate myself with the Prime Minister's remark about the
That's Independent Alliance / Your Party.
Golders Green. There is no place for hatred,
I just know from the name,
anti-Semitism, or
though.
violence of any kind against individuals. Mr.
Yeah.
Speaker, an independent panel of senior judges found no basis for misconduct proceedings against the British Chief Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Karim Khan, King's Counsel. Yet reports suggest that elements within the court's governing body are seeking to disregard those findings, while ICC officials continue to face external pressure and sanctions. Therefore, given the UK's commitment to the rule of law and as a human rights lawyer himself, what steps will the Prime Minister set out to defend the independence of the ICC and to support British nationals carrying out international judicial roles?
Prime Minister.
I'm not going to comment on the internal proceedings of the court. As he knows, we support the court. We are party to the treaty and there are legal obligations that flow from that.
David Burton-Sampson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In my constituency of Southend Western Lee, we have a cohesive and diverse community with a significant Jewish population and a thriving Muslim community, and many others from various different backgrounds, all living together and supporting each other. I was therefore appalled to learn of the arson attack against the Jewish community in Golders Green this week. And I'm deeply concerned at the Shadow Justice Secretary's outrageous comments last week about the community iftar in Trafalgar Square, seemingly supported by the leader of the opposition. Can the Prime Minister assure me and my worried constituents that he and his government will do all
Another Labour question. Is it just me, or is the government backbench just getting a crazy amount of questions proportionally today? No?
Say again what a shocking
I know they have like 2/3 of Parliament, but that's not how questions get picked.
Clear, an attack on British
Generally.
Jews is an attack on all of us. And Mr. Speaker, on Monday morning I met Jewish community leaders to talk through what we could do on ambulances, on security, and on the social cohesion plan. Can I also say this? I was really struck by the fact that the Jewish community came out last week against the comments of the Shadow Justice Secretary, standing in solidarity with Muslims who wanted to pray in Trafalgar Square. And equally, on Monday at the Eid event we had, Muslims stood in solidarity with our Jewish community. That is Britain, contrary to what the Shadow Justice Secretary said last week, supported by the leader of the opposition. That is how far they've fallen.
Thames Water is lurching from crisis to crisis. Last year it was let off record fines for pumping sewage into our rivers by Ofwat.
Ooh,
it is allowed
I was
to
wrong.
do so under rules that are laid out in the Water Act.
I may have been wrong. I actually have no clue.
Will he consider scrapping those rules to stop Ofwat letting water companies off the hook?
Well, can I thank him for raising this, and it is deeply concerning, and we're looking
Who
at
is
what
that? That's
we
not
can
Independent
do,
Alliance or Your
because
Party,
it's
but they
been,
are sitting in the
too
furthest
much,
back bench.
Too concerned for too long, and so we need to act.
Is it
Mr. Speaker, as the COVID
SDLP
inquiry
in Northern
graphically
Ireland?
laid bare last week,
Maybe Alliance
the
Party.
NHS was starved of the investment it needed under the party opposite. Nowhere more so than at Northwick Park Hospital, whose brave and extraordinary staff worked round the clock during COVID, looking after many of my constituents. Given the very welcome substantial investment that the government has committed to improve the NHS, will my right honourable friend encourage the Health Secretary to support plans for a new intensive care unit at Northwick Park?
Prime Minister.
The COVID report is a stark
So many
reminder,
Labour
Mr. Speaker,
questions.
of the extraordinary efforts
This
of
is
health
odd.
workers to keep this country safe. We are delivering record investment and reform that our NHS needs, and whilst decisions about local infrastructure are made by integrated care boards, I'll make sure that he gets a meeting with the Minister to discuss his particular care.
Did the front
today,
bench, did the
Mr.
government
Speaker,
front bench
NHS
move around while the
satisfaction
cameras
rates
weren't
have risen
looking? Because
for
he
the
was not
first
sitting
time
there
since the
before.
pandemic. That is the difference that the Labour government is making.
News shows rehearsed final question.
Ah, okay, no,
Very
he
much.
just moved over.
Mr. Speaker,
My bad.
on the 21st of
Final
November
question.
of last year, Robert Clancy, a hugely valued and much loved member of my staff, took his own life. He was
Oh,
29.
man.
While successive governments have done a great deal to deal with the scourge of suicide in this country, there is much more that can be done. Will the Prime
Yeah.
Minister personally commit to meet
Oh,
with me
wow.
to discuss how we can prevent others experiencing the unimaginable pain that Rob's family and friends have endured?
Yeah.
Can I thank him for raising the case of Robert Clancy? We are happy to work across the House on all that we can do in relation to suicide. I'm pleased that we've been able to put in place a strategy. That is the action of this government, but it needs to be the action of all of us, and I'll make sure he gets the meeting that he is asking for, and thank him again for raising this case. It's really important that he does so.
Please, Prime Minister's questions.
All right, Prime Minister's questions are adjourned.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. I can hear you. Don't worry, sir. Unfortunately, just let them. Everybody's walking in front of you. It doesn't do you any benefit or me.
All right. Well, that's been it for this stream. I will be back tomorrow on Thursday at 6 p.m. my regularly scheduled chess stream. If you're watching this on YouTube, I live stream these on twitch.tv/progressiveemma, so make sure to give it a follow. But yeah, I'll be back tomorrow, and I'll probably be hanging out in my Discord today. So yeah, have a good day, everyone. Be healthy, be safe, drink water, and that will be all for today. See y'all.